Future pacing was completely killing my sales. And it's just because I didn't understand sales. I didn't understand what actually made a close, what made a close objectionless. But today, what I'm going to be going over is what I call the five certainties. These are things that one, create objectionless closes, but two, will help you to understand the principle of sales and what actually matters in a call and what doesn't as well. So when we're getting into the five certainties, what we're going to be looking at is the first thing is the problem has to be real and the problem has to be serious. Okay. If the problem is not real and the problem is not serious, the person's not going to buy. But it's the reason that the person is here in the first place. So, one, firstly, let's validate that the problem is real. And this is what I call the what. What is the actual problem? Once we understand that a problem is there, and the way that this actually comes up is you ask, how are you hoping we could help? And then they will start to list off things that they actually need help with and problems that pertain to this specific thing. I would say just make sure to keep your verbiage very specific. So for me, I sell a mobility offer. So I would say, how are you hoping we could help when it comes to your body specifically? Then at that point, everything that they say will be pertaining to their body specifically. After that, now it's time to make sure that the problem is actually serious. So we have a few ways of actually doing this. All are pretty much great. Some will just be uncovered in conversation. You won't need to ask them as questions. But what this actually looks like is one, the scale of the problem. How do we gauge the scale of the problem? We gauge the scale of the problem by going through a few things. We go through how does that actually show up day to day, week to week, month to month? What does that look like? How is this actually not impacting your life, but how is it showing up in your life? Your goal here isn't to be corny and emotional or anything like that. Your goal is to logically understand what this human is actually going through as a consequence of them having this problem within their life. Then after that, you want to understand what it's actually costing them. What is it costing them in terms of the activities they can do, what they can functionally do? What does it cost them in experiences with their family? What is the actual cost? Whatever cost you can quantify on the offer that you're on, that's what you want to understand there. You want to understand how's it showing up? What does it stop them from being able to do? Okay, that is another way to gauge scale or severity of a problem. After that, we want to understand how long has the problem been going on? How long has this been aggregating? How long have you been frustrated that this has been going on? Like we just want a time frame of how long this has been happening within their life. After we understand the time frame of how long it's been going on, a really big piece is understanding if they think this is getting worse or this is getting better. If they believe that this is getting better, that kind of leads us into our next principle of certainty. When we're looking at this, we ideally want them to, say that things are getting worse. If they say things are getting worse, that's great. That's easy for you. If they say things are getting better, you may have to debunk some things. Or B, you might just have to let them off the call and decide to make it a follow-up and just see if things are getting worse in the future, right? Because most likely, if you're selling something $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and they believe their problem is already improving, probably shouldn't sell that person in the first place because they think they're going to be fine. Before we go to the second certainty, I want to recap the first certainty by saying the problem needs to be real and the problem needs to be serious. Now, when I say that, this problem needs to have costed them something day to day, right? It has to have an accumulated cost for it to actually be a problem in today's day and age. Someone being proactive about something, it's not going to be as big of a problem or severe as a problem as someone who's constantly experienced some form of loss. Now, proactive people can still be sold. It's just you're going to have a better use of your time selling people who have accumulated a problem over time. Now we go into the second piece, which is the second piece of certainty is that essentially everything has failed and they have a slight understanding of why or justification behind why it's failed. When we're looking at something like this, we need to know what they've actually tried to solve this problem. Okay. After we understand what they've tried, let's get a gauge of the results that they've gotten from these things they have tried as well. Okay. So if we get a gauge of what they've tried, the results that they've gotten as well, and then we get them to justify, even though they tried this thing, they got these results, why are they still where they are? Then at that point, they start to debunk those things. And the reason this is important, it kind of leads back to the past point of if someone feels like their situation is getting better, then we start to go into what they're doing to make it better. And we start to notice it's really not getting better. They just were maybe bullshitting or who knows. But the thing is it allows you to kind of debunk these things. Okay. It allows you to break these things down and also kind of reduce the feeling of hope that someone has that their solution or what they're doing is going to get them to where they want to be. Because if someone has hope that their thing's going to get them to where they want to be. When you get to the end and you say, hey, it's going to be $9,600 for us to be able to solve this, that person is going to say, the thing I'm already doing, it's like $120 a month. I really can't justify that, right? No one would be able to justify that. If they think that what they're doing is going to get them to where they want to be, there will be no reason they would have to use you, right? So in this case, this gives you the opportunity to debunk all of the things that they've done and break them down and make sure it's not something that's going to get them to where they want to be. Because if it is going to get them there, let them go do that thing, maybe follow up with them, see if anything has changed in the future. Now we understand the problem is real and serious. And also we understand that everything they've tried so far has failed, and they understand why it's failed as well. Now comes a bigger piece. And this bigger piece is them admitting that they cannot solve the problem alone. This is certainty 3. So if they cannot solve the problem alone, you need a true or false here. Do they believe they can solve it alone? Do they believe that they cannot solve it alone? If they believe that they can solve it alone, let them off the call. Let them go do it. They should. They should go attempt to solve it alone, because if they don't have to spend the money, they should easily go do that. There's no need for you to be needy or be scared over a sale, because if you're running into a lot of people who think they can solve the problem that you're doing on their own, you're probably selling a commodity, and you probably should get out of that. You should probably sell something that is a little bit harder to do alone, something that takes a little bit more expertise, a little bit more time. And then at that point, you're pretty much going to have a winning offer. But if you're selling something where it's really easy to solve and people think they can do it on their own, it's pretty fucking useless. So we're at 3 certainties now. The problem is real and serious. They understand why the things they've done have failed. And also they understand why they can't actually solve this problem on their own. With why they can't solve it on their own, you want to make sure you understand why. You want to have justification. Don't just say, oh, do you think you can solve this on your own? It's not that. More so of an assumptive way, you want to say, why haven't you been able to solve this on your own? Or why can't you solve this on your own? Something like that. And then immediately get them to say, well, I can't solve it on my own because I don't know what to do. I can't solve it on my own because I don't know what to do and I'm not consistent. I can't solve it on my own because, sometimes I just don't know where to start and I just don't have the time to research everything and blah, blah, blah. It's always usually going to be knowledge or consistency to the reason that they can't succeed on their own. That brings me to the next piece, which is 4th piece of certainty, is doing nothing will cost me more than doing something. Okay. So doing nothing will cost me more than doing something. The reason this is important is humans are very risk averse, right? So they're extremely risk averse. A lot of people don't want to lose anything. They don't want to lose anything whatsoever or continue to lose anything. And a lot of times when we've looked at the problem and the problem is real and it has a higher level of severity, if the problem is getting worse, it's very easy to future pace something getting worse than humans future pacing something getting better. Humans are very good at thinking negatively about bad things. We're not very good at thinking positively. That's why people do gratitude journals. That's why people do prayer. That's why people have to express some form of gratitude, because we can be so extremely negative, and our fight or flight response is our main thing because it's how we actually survive. When we're looking at this, we need to really have the picture painted of doing nothing will cost them more, right? So if you don't do anything, what is the concern? What are they concerned about in the future if they don't start to make a change? What are they concerned about in the future if they don't begin to switch things up, right? And now that they're concerned about that, what does daily life even look like then? If we don't solve this, what does that look like? Paint a further picture of this fear that they have, this place that they don't want to be in. And another place you could go is like, who else does it affect? How does this show up for other people within your life? Does it just affect you, right? Things like this. If you can understand these things, if they're concerned, how it's actually going to affect their life, then at that point, they're going to paint a very vivid picture of a life they want nothing to do with. And it creates that threshold for urgency for them to close objectionless. Now, you need them to also fight against that future. You need them to fight against that future. A justification or asking why questions are the strongest types of questions in sales as a whole. So if we're looking at this and you ask them, okay, what is the concern if you don't solve this? What does daily life look like? Who else does this impact? Okay, great. And for you, a lot of people, they accept that future. They just say, hey, it is what it is. I'm going to struggle. I'm going to go through hard things. It is what it is. I can just relax. It's a part of life. Why are you not willing to be one of those people who accepts this as your reality? Something like that. And what that allows this to do is it allows them to fight against an identity of them being okay with this, them being a person that just says, hey, this is fine. I will accept this. And instead being the person that fights against that with every iota in their being, every fiber of their being wants to deny that reality as a future that they could actually live. They want to live the complete opposite. So what they'll do is they'll fight against that future. Now, when it comes down to it, the last piece of certainty is this solution will solve my problem. So we went from discovery deep into pitch, but what I mean here is like the pre-pitch and also the pitch. This is truthfully how you get and objectionless close. And the reason I say that is, one, you should be able to name their problem. You should be able to thoroughly explain why the past solutions have failed after you've had a conversation with them. And also, you should be able to list features that kind of map to their specific issues. The pitch should always feel completely custom and like, hey, you're speaking to me. You know me in a very, very weird way. You know me, you know me extremely, extremely well. And that's what you want. You want someone to say, wow, you like that's me to a T. This is everything that I need. This is perfect. Yes. And the only problem you should ever run to at the end of your discovery is not think about it. It's not anything. It should always just be very clearly stated as the money. That's it. It should be very clearly stated as the money, or they should be closing, and that is it. If you don't get one of those, you fucked up somewhere. And you should probably review that call and figure out where you fucked up, because these are the only areas someone needs to be certain in to actually make a decision. The checklist that I have for you guys for objectionless closes is, one, have they described their pain as greater than maybe a 6 or a 7 out of 10? Okay, that means the problem is real, the problem is severe as well. Two, have they accepted that the past solutions have failed, and why have they failed as well? If they do not accept that the past solutions have failed, they will always believe that they have a way out, or they have hope that something can change. Three, do they believe that they can actually solve this alone? If they believe they can solve this alone, why would they ever give you $5, $10, $15,000? Are you going to pay me $15,000 and you think that you could already make 10 to 20 to 30K a month? I mean, probably not, brother. Probably not. That probably wouldn't make sense. Then I probably wouldn't let you give me that money either if you think you could do it alone. Like, just go do it alone. Go prove it to yourself. And if you can't, then come back. Right. Then if we're looking at number 4, you want to see, have they described a future without help? Have they described a future without help? And have they refuted against that future? In terms of, have you had them vividly describe a negative future? And past having them describe a negative future, have you had them describe why they're not willing to accept that future? Why they're not willing to be one of the people who has that as their reality? And past that, number 5, have they actually agreed on the solution that you present? Is it agreeable? Do they believe in it? Is there any doubt in their brain that this is the thing to get them to where they want to be? When I say this, it's not a thing of you asking them, like, do you think this is everything you need? And it's more so you telling them, does it make sense why you need this? They say yes, you say why. Why does it make sense to you? You want to come across more assertive, especially in things like this. When you're selling high ticket, you don't really have the permission to be a wussy, especially in this day and age. The moment they sense a little bit of like a little bit of that, bitch energy, regardless, it's not going to close every time. Anytime that I'm a little wussy-ish, it doesn't close. So just be very assertive in your closing, be assertive in your prices, be assertive in what you do, and naturally the objectionless closes will follow. So again, to recap, you have 5 certainties that you need in a sales conversation. The problem needs to be real, and the problem needs to be serious. The second one, everything needs to have failed, and they need to explain why they failed. Because if they did not fail, why are you here in the first place? You should just go do that. And you should ask them that. You should be very clear in that. And if something did not fail, go do it. And then they can explain why they won't go do it or why they won't go back to it. And you're back in the pocket. The next thing is they cannot believe that they can actually solve this alone. They need to be certain that they cannot solve it alone. If they're certain that they can solve it alone, let them off the call. That's a waste of your time. You're going to get to the pitch and they're not going to be able to justify the value to the price whatsoever. If we're looking at the 4th one, doing nothing will cost more than doing whatever you're presenting. That's what you want. You want to increase the urgency and the loss threshold so high that they have to do something different. They say, I cannot accept that reality. I must do something, which increasing it as much as possible increases the chances that the person closes in an objectionless manner. And the last one is that they feel the solution will 100% solve their problem. If you have all 5 of these certainties and it's in depth, it's clear, and it's everything that's needed based on what I've said in this video, you will have objectionless closes. If you miss even one of these, you will not have objectionless closes unless you get lucky, unless it's an absolute lay down and your offer is just an absolute golden offer. But even if you have a golden offer and you miss one of these, it can be very easy to still get objections, still get fear objections, still get a ton of different things. But if you have all of these for certain, and this maximizes the certainty to eliminate fear, eliminate any form of a value objection, eliminate any form of pretty much anything other than money, because we cannot magically make money appear in people's accounts. But what we can do is run a process that leads us to the best possible outcome every single time. Okay. So either way, those are the 5 certainties. I'll put them on the screen here again now. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye.